Welcome, welcome. There is a story behind every creation, and this video is about the story that explains and describes and explores and discovers the entity, the business, the contribution to the world called International Mentoring Community. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Hobbs. I'm one of the co-founders, and you'll find me in the video with my other co-founder, Doug Lawrence, where we share a historical perspective of IMC, jump to the future perspective, bring it back to the present, and then start to share with you the different certificates that are available, and in particular, emphasize the Certificate of Competence Journey Mentor. With that introduction, enjoy the video, and whenever you would like to add comments, there will be somewhere around this video a place to add your insights.
Welcome, everyone. A conversation here with Doug and Stephen from the International Mentoring Community. And we've been wanting to shoot this video for a little while, and it's really about connecting the past with the future, with the present. And the story has a little bit more of that head, heart, and hands language. So you get to know who Doug and Stephen are. You also get to position in your own head, heart, and hands what might be the ways you would like to get involved with the international mentoring community. So to basically set this up, I just like to share my main role is I'm director of certification for IMC. So I do a lot of the behind the scenes work about setting up the certificates and the self-assessment and the auditing and the verifying and making sure that's all taken care of. And then I support mentoring connection with the workplace. Doug, you just want to share your position, and then we'll head into the story.
So I'm a co-founder of the International Mentoring Community, and today I serve as the Director of Education. That is going to obviously be evolving, where we will be establishing a Director of Practice, of mentoring practice, which is very near and dear to my heart, and that's where I see.
Okay, and that will be certainly a connection of the future present when we get to that. Doug, you're the one I believe has the deeper roots of how we came to be IMC. So can you share that, and then I'll jump in terms of how I came to know you and where we connected with. So you're up first.
Okay. So my journey actually started probably 10 or 11 years ago. And long story short, I was working with university students, job coaching, and eventually those relationships morphed themselves into mentoring relationships. And at one stage, a group of them said, well, you need to do this for a living. We can't afford to pay you, but I'm sure somebody could. And so I decided, I was still had a full-time job. I decided to do some market research just to see what this was all about. And in my market research, I had identified that there was lots of organizations that claimed to be able to provide a certification for mentoring. It was come take our training course and become a certified mentor. And when you kind of peeled back the onion skin, what you saw underneath that onion skin was that it was self-certification. And I made a decision at that stage that that wasn't going to be me or whoever I was going to work with, that we were going to create that independent certification body for mentoring. And that particular thought is one that doesn't exist anywhere in the world, and didn't at that time and doesn't even today, where it is purely for the certification of mentors. And so I ended up, my journey continues on from there, where I partnered with an organization out of the United States, and We evolved at the request of some practicing mentors. We evolved from there to a place where the certification for mentors, the request that we were getting or hearing was that it needed to be more competence-based. And so this is a good place to sort of say where my relationship with the organization in the US ended. And fortunately for me, I had been introduced to yourself and we began our journey together. And I think I'll stop there and get you to start to add your piece to the puzzle or to the story.
I started off in my life as understanding what it meant to be a facilitative mentor, and that's a term that I continue to use because I was not an instructive coach, I was a facilitative mentor. And I had a company that did validation of occupational health and safety education into the oil patch, because you had to be able to prove you were competent at starting up the machines, dealing with the machines, how to do your first aid, and that element. That company didn't quite make the shift, and it was disbanded. And what that did was it brought to the surface conversations that I've had with many people around ISO, International Standards Organizations, the area of competence. And I said, well, what could I do if I was to connect this with mentoring? Because I started getting involved with a new startup mentoring software. And that's, as Doug shares, that's how we got connected. And I was always intrigued because he was using the concept of, we're looking at ISO connection. And I said, well, in our conversations, I can bring an ISO software to the story. I can bring competence, what I now call verification, to the story. Do you want to add that into your deep practice of where you're coming from? And let's form something together. And that's what then started, it's almost 3 years ago now, the International Mentoring Community. And we have been in process of working that through. And does that make the connection enough, Doug, at this
Yep.
point in time? Before, I think it would be of value then maybe to spring into the future and bring that story back to the present, because I think that's where there's something that's unfolding here that I think is extraordinary. From this future perspective to the present, where Doug and I have unfolded a conversation was, yes, it's great to do competence verification and guide people to become competent mentors or to be certified in the knowledge of mentoring, the recognition of mentorship. We agreed to that. But we both said, let's push this a little bit more. And I said, are we pushing it into, like, there is, higher certification recognition in the world of coaching? Do you want to go to that level? And he said, well, we could. And I said, well, I would like to push it further. I said that I would love to be able to see what we call a quasi-professional status for mentors. And I shared that part because the mentee is tapping into the mentor's lived experience. It's a trusted two-way relationship. There is more that's going to happen than if you are attempting to just hold someone accountable to their accountabilities and guiding them how to get to those accountabilities. You're actually into a deeper, richer conversation that influences both parties for an even longer period of time. And I believe that requires more recognition. And that's where the quasi-professional conversation popped onto the scene. I'm not saying take it to professional, all right, like doctors and lawyers, but there are quasi-professionals that they're regulating themselves. They're making sure that the principles and protocols are in place, and that they're advancing the concepts and practices associated with it to the extent that you could use the word quasi-professional. And another time we'll dig into what makes professional and what makes quasi-professional. And I think it's suffice to say, in terms of this conversation that Doug and I were having, is how could we extend, all right, and I'm using that word in particular, extend certification into something that's even more valuable for the world of mentoring and the world of business, of life, and that's where I was coming from. Doug, you want to add to that?
It's definitely the journey that we're going on is one that would include the quasi-professional. And I think that what we've done is we've also looked at the various certifications that IMC is going to be offering, and we're taking mentoring. The best way I can say this is we're taking mentoring to a place it hasn't been before. And so by that, I'm talking about the journey mentor. So the Certificate of Competence journey mentor being one that actually will be part of the support structure for mental health, mental well-being, and post-traumatic stress. So it's going into this journey that we're both on, is open-minded to what is needed out there in the global economy today. What are things that, how can mentoring bring additional value in addition to what it already has? But what are some of the things that it can bring additional, like I just think of every time I have a conversation with somebody, we start talking mental health, mental well-being, and I share what we're doing. They just said, where have you been? This is something that, should have been in place, and it's still, it's taking time for us to get there, but it's part of the overall journey.
Well, I think this is where there's a bridge from the future to the present from a past point of view. So we're going to meld it into the present. I believe that what's important to share right now is that this would be an independent body. Yep. Because of this quasi-professional status. Now, we've got to acknowledge that Talent C, Doug, Wealth Movement, Stephen, did create this. And yes, IMC is on the Wealth Movement website because we had to anchor it somewhere to get it started. But we are not, but, and we are going to move it out onto its own website to set it up to be an independent group. Now, if we go to the words international mentoring community, I think we all understand it's about mentoring. We get that. International is that we're taking this out on an international basis. Is if we're going to create this independent body to do this quasi-professional, can we get it to be international? That's one of our part of our dream. The other part of it is that it is a community. So we chose not to use like the word association. We said we'll do community, which community is the sense of what's the level of commonness that unifies us together into action and work together. So even though Doug and I get it started and we'll serve to keep moving it forward, we'll eventually get it so that we have the board, we have what we need, we have ISO certification because we're going to work with the software system to actually, at minimum, get 9001 and the one to do with education delivery, and to work from the conformity assessment, conformity verification, validation component of ISO. So that's from an organization point of view. As we add the deeper connection with the verification, because what we've done is we've linked the verification process right into the Criminal Code of Canada. and we've built it in from that recognition point. Now, I know going international, you're going to say, well, just because it's, you know, the Canadian Criminal Code, but what it is to build the basis and then say, okay, where can we get it? Where? What do we link it to? There might be something that might be, it could even go into international law. Can we connect it to that? That's part of the dream, to make that kind of connection and see where we go with that. Do you want to add anything to that before I'd like to share what the certifications are that we have at this point in time?
No, that's good.
Okay. So we have right now 4 certifications that we offer out into the public, and then there's certifications in the background. So let me just share the background one. So we can actually do a certification in an auditor to be able to audit, with certification in verifiers so they can do the verification. We will be doing the certification for an educator of the programs that we offer, not to go out and say is that we're the only educators that can come in, because we're also saying is wherever you get your education, you can come to the certifications that are all open publicly. But we will create one from the inside to support the education process about mentoring and about IMC. So from the public offering point of view, let me do it this way. There's 4, and think of them as being nested inside each other, sort of like the doll inside the doll inside the doll kind of idea. So the first one is what's called the Certificate of Recognition Mentorship. It's for those who are turning their attention to mentorship, mentoring, serving as a mentor, and go, what's this all about? And what we do is we offer that certificate of recognition. The next one is a certificate of achievement mentoring. And this is a deeper dive into the world of concepts associated with mentorship and mentoring and serving as a mentor. You get awareness of the kind of skills that you need to do, but you are being audited for your understanding, your learning about the concepts. Now again, recognition is nested inside of achievement, which then means we have the Certificate of Competence Mentor, which is where yes, you have to have your understanding, you have learned the concepts, but now you're putting it into practice, and you're using something like a mentoring log to keep track of your practice. You're doing a much deeper reflective practice, and therefore you would be verified competent. So a Certificate of Competence Mentor. So that's where that one goes. We have also created another one, and this is coming out of certainly the heart of Doug, and it's the Certificate of Competence Journey Mentor. Now, this one can be used in 2 ways. One, we would like to offer to those who are doing the Certificate of Competence Mentor, you may want to invite a journey mentor to journey with you, because it does bring a lot of ideas and feelings and everything to the surface, so you have someone that can journey with you. But also Doug realized is that the journey mentor, and he hinted at it already, is that it has a strong connection into the world of mental health. And I'll ask him to share just a little bit more about what this is about here. But the idea is, how can this journey mentor support the journey of someone who is going through life and being connected to work and recreation and philanthropy, all the different aspects of life, and have someone who can be there with them so that that person can tap into the lived experience. Different than coaching, all right? And at some point in time, you may want to look up our series of insights about coaching and mentoring and training and mentoring, and why I use facilitating and mentoring. And I'll leave that for another time, but wherever you see this video, you'll probably see links to that. But Doug, do you want to just share a little bit more of this Journey Mentor and how you're seeing it unfolding here?
So the idea for the Journey Mentor came from, I did a bunch of research and I found that mentors were being used to be part of the support structure for people that were dealing with anxiety and added stress, and in some cases actually were struggling with healing from post-traumatic stress. And um, so, and I was seeing that a lot of this was taking place in some of the universities. This was being done in some organizations that were forward thinking enough to be able to say, we need to do more for our employees and we need to offer these additional supports. And mentoring was seen as a way to be able to do that. So as I went through and I looked at where we were and where we were wanting to go from a international mentoring community, I saw the need for the Journey Mentor to be part of that mental health, mental well-being, post-traumatic stress support structure. And the idea behind it, and I'm very much aware of the cautions that has been shared with me from concerned people that, are you asking the mentor to now prescribe, to be able to do an assessment of the individual that you're working with? And that certainly is not the case. The idea behind the Journey Mentor is that they're there to listen and hear and to actually go with that person on their journey, their healing journey going forward in that. So the idea behind it was, to be cognizant and aware of, it's like creating a support structure for yourself as the mentor, is to be able to um, to be able to have access to or know where you can go to professionally trained resources that you can do referrals to. So, and a perfect example is, I have a person actually that I'm mentoring who is a counselor by trade, and it's knowing that I can refer people to her to be able to deal with, and so on. So psychologists, psychiatrists, all of those professionally trained people. The idea is for us not to step into their area of expertise, but it's to be there to be able to say, I have a person that could benefit from your skill sets.
Well, one of the key words that we use in IMC is the concept of boundary.
Right.
And we understand about boundaries, and Doug is just sharing that from a Journey Mentor point of view. But there is the boundary of these different certifications and how they're nested in each other and bounded in, okay, it makes sense in Canada from a criminal code point of view. It's going to be bounded in the sense of ISO around the world, but what about the criminal code of other countries? We understand the boundary. We're looking at the notion of quasi-professional. There's a boundary that goes around that one. It's not all of a sudden we're just going to go jump in to the deep end of the pool. We're letting this unfold in a way that the community can get involved, and we can find ways to work with the community to have this extended and extended and extended. And that is what I believe is the beauty of this. And that's why Doug happened to take it into the world of the mental health with the Journey Mentor. But guess what? There could be other certifications that come out that are really important, and we're going to have to look at those and put the boundaries around them and see what we can do. But at the core of all of that is the following. There is the presence of mentorship. There's the practice of mentoring, and there's the competence of mentor. And those are three guiding statements that says, okay, this is what's going to unfold. This is what's going to unfold, unfold as we move IMC forward. And to hold to that so that we can be for the world. Because I think at the end of the day, here's a couple of things to think about. IMC is attempting to create this sort of deeper, richer understanding, all right, of mentorship. And we're also attempting to figure out how to be more thoughtful and tactful in the practice of mentoring, to the extent that we can be fair and caring in the competence of mentor. Now, those are 6 words associated with the phrases, not to the extent that that's all there is. It's to give you, at this point in time, from Doug and my head, heart, and hands, this is what we're attempting to bring for the world. And we invite you to get involved with it. If you have questions, you can go to the contact page right now on Wealth Movement, WELLTH movement.com/contact, and just ask a question there. If you find this video and it has a comment section underneath, add your comments in. We'll be making announcements about moving it off Wealth Movement into its own site to truly get this independence that we talk about. This is all going to be unfolding while this is being shot June 2020. Certainly by the fall, this will all be set up and ready to go. And we truly, truly invite your insights. Whatever they may be, please share, because this is an international mentoring community.
Thanks for watching the video. We have an ask of you. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell beside subscribe so you can receive more notifications of the videos that we're loading up. And like the video, and especially if you could comment your insights. We would enjoy learning from you. Take care.